Jason, what does HCI mean?
Sure. So thanks, Robert. The HCI is a new index that I created to try and get a better handle on real estate values and to backtest them through history, and then to also use the HCI, the Hartman Comparison Index, to project forward what might be coming down the pike. Because as you've said and Kim has said, we are in very strange times. Everything is manipulated nowadays. Everything is a scam. I think people are catching on. Back in 2005, 2004, when I was giving talks at conferences and then started podcasting about 2006, you talk to people about the Federal Reserve, you talk to them about monetary policy, and very few people even were in tune with that. But now people are really getting it. And I think cryptocurrencies to some extent are responsible for that. People understand what fiat money is now by authority. It's fake money. That's what we basically have with every currency on earth. It's all by fiat, by authority. And so how do we value anything in a highly manipulated, highly censored environment? Big tech companies are censoring everybody. You can't speak the truth anymore. It's like George Orwell's book, 1984. It's a very discouraging time and very disconcerting in many ways. But one thing that has a lot of data in it, and this is why communism and socialism have been a disaster every time in history and every place on earth, is because they didn't have the data of accurate price signals. And price signals contain just a fortune, a wealth of data in them. So when any commodity in the market, whether it be a good or a service, has a price, and that price is determined by hopefully a free market, if not at least a relatively free market. If we use that price signal and all the data it has behind it, like why is the price of gold what it is? Why is the price of oil what it is? Why is the price of Bitcoin what it is? Why is the dollar valued compared to other currencies at whatever value it is? When we use all that data and we take maybe 40 of these products and services or commodities and services, and we combine them into an index and then compare that index to housing prices, we can learn a lot. And I think we can really mitigate any downside risk and possibly have a lot of upside potential by using that data.
If the numbers are accurate.
You're right. Absolutely.
So Kim and I remember when, how did they measure the value of a rent? They basically said, if you were living in your house, what would you charge yourself rent for? Yeah. That's how they got the rental value.
Yeah.
And then, Kim and I, we bought our first house together. Kim had to go to our gold depository because we didn't trust the dollar. Right, Kim?
Yeah, we had been stacking silver bars in our closet in our master bedroom in La Jolla, California, when we were pretty broke.
Yeah,
we were buying our personal residence up in Portland, Oregon, and they said we need $23,000 now, quick,
right?
Because our credit was so bad, it's like we had to jump on this,
right?
And so I took the silver bars in grocery bags to the precious metals dealer down the street and got our $23,000.
Yeah, that is a great story. See, if someone watching or listening has been saving to buy maybe their first rental property, and say they've been doing that for 10 years, no one told them they had to save their money denominated in dollars. They could have saved that money, that wealth as they accumulated it. They get paid in dollars, but they could immediately convert them to gold, silver, cryptocurrencies, oil, orange juice, rice, anything, right? They could convert them to anything. And as they stored that wealth, the question is, if it took them 5 years or 10 years, what was it worth vis-a-vis the dollar? Everything in life is understood.
Jason,
go ahead.
Hang on, because you're getting a little too complex for the rich dad crowd here.
Okay. Oh, come on.
Keep it simple. I was watching the Suns game, and there was a realtor there with her husband, and she had tax problems, and she was sitting with her accountant. This guy should go to jail, I think, personally. But I was listening to the conversation. And apparently, because the real estate market's been going up so fast, she and husband have been buying and flipping as well as selling, as a broker. So they're getting commissions. So they were flipping properties and all this. never paid the taxes.
Eh.
Kim, I'm sitting there, I'm at Tomaso's, listening to this horror story, I'm going, and I said, holy mackerel. So her solution was she was going to flip another property.
Right. Yeah.
And I said to her,
Wait for the taxes.
yep. And I said, he's just making it worse. And she had no idea what I was talking about. She was going to short-term capital gains.
Right.
She was going to flip another property. And on top of that, I said, what if the market crashed? And she said, the words I've been waiting to hear. Oh, real estate prices always go up.
Yeah, right.
So can you remember those words?
I do remember those words. And that's why, Jason, I like this index that you're doing, because everybody says, oh, the prices are through the roof and they're this and they're that and they're so inflated. But you're saying maybe not, because let's compare it to real goods and services and see exactly where they do stand, not just opinions. Everybody's on opinions today.
I know.
Very few facts out there.
A lot of opinions with little data, right, Kim? Yeah. So if you go back to, say, 1970, when we were still on the gold standard before Nixon took us off, the median price house was $22,000 and change. And back then, gold was $35. So if you wanted to buy the median price house in gold, it would take 646 ounces of gold.
Today, the median priced house is $503,000, give or take, depending on what index you're following. Gold is $3,300 an ounce. So today, to buy that house, it would take only 152 ounces of gold.
What was a 1970 comparison?
646. So today it's less than a third. It's cheaper priced in gold.
Wow.
Isn't that cool? Yeah.
It is really cool. Kim, what do you think about this? I mean, why is this important to you? Because, as an investor, why do you want to know the comparisons of things?
I want to know what's so for example, I think you kind of said it, Jason, is most people think you have to hold cash. You have to buy properties in cash. But there's other places you could put your money where the value of that money could increase dramatically, and then your worth is more. So prices come down, actually, if you can do that.
Yeah, absolutely.
But I wanted to ask, Jason, you talk about, and we've talked about gold and silver, and I want to compare it to oil also. But why is it people are so hesitant to part with their dollars? Like want to hoard their dollars. Why are they doing that?
Kim, that's a great question. And I would argue that they're just brainwashed. I mean, what real use does a dollar have? Think about it. It's a piece of, well, not exactly paper, but it's like cotton fibers or whatever it is. And with, pictures of dead presidents. And the value of it is constantly being debased. I think Robert has these too. I think he was holding these up, if I recall correctly. One of my podcast listeners sent me Zimbabwe dollars, right? This is 100 trillion Zimbabwe dollars right here. But what's the value of it? It's just a little collectible. It has no value, right? And so the name of something is not the same as the value of something. And so dollars, we only care what it buys us.